Hi guys, and welcome back to another edition of Do I Really Want to Read This? Book 12 of 100. Book 12 is I Know Where She Is by S.B.Caves. And if you notice the lighting, the setting, the candles are already lit. This review has not gone well for me in trying to film it. I filmed it through several times now and scrapped everyone because I'm getting bogged down in the details of this book. So, what's this book about? Let's start there. Let's give you some of the details. 10 years ago, Francine's world was destroyed when her daughter was taken. Now, on the anniversary of the abduction, Francine receives an anonymous note containing just 5 words. I know where she is. What Francine learns next will horrify her. She will discover danger in the most unexpected places. She will do things she never imagined, and she will stop at nothing to uncover the truth. That sets up the premise for this book. It sounds interesting, but my review of this book is it fails to deliver. That's the theme of this review. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy the read. It was a struggle to get through, even though it's not a large book. For comparison's sake, this is going to be the next book, which is quite a bit thicker. Oh no, did I just accidentally spoil it? I may have. I can't see the camera angle. So if you got a little mini preview, just disregard until the end. Despite being a short book, there's a lot packed into this one. And I'm going to touch on that. So first, I want to establish the plot. We've got Francine. She gets this letter in the mail alluding that someone has information about the disappearance of her daughter. Francine takes this information to her ex-husband, Will, who is dismissive of it. He says, Francine, get out of here. This doesn't seem legitimate to me. If it does to you, take it to the police, but leave me out of it. Francine goes back home. She goes to work the next day, and there's a strange girl loitering outside of her work. She goes into the office, and she's looking out her window, and the girl is lurking around her car. So she goes out and she confronts her. This girl's name is Lena, and she says, hey, I slipped a note under your door. Did you get it? And Francine says, yes, I did. Tell me more. Lena is not just pausing for the creaking to stop. Someone walking overhead. Oh I'm not sure how well that came through in the mic, but it was quite loud for me. Lena is presented as disheveled physically, emotionally erratic, sometimes childlike, sometimes angry. She just doesn't come across as a reliable source of information and is suspicious. Her behavior is suspicious. She feels like she's being watched and could be kidnapped at any time. She tells Francine she knows her daughter. She has been with her for the last 10 years. They were both abducted by the same people and kept in the same place, and gives her information about where her daughter Autumn currently is and what she is experiencing. And after this, Francine goes back to her husband, her ex-husband, and he's again just like, go away. Will's at a place in his life where he's trying to move on. He has a new wife, a baby on the way, and isn't really interested in being dragged back in to Francine's kind of web of obsession in searching for their daughter. There's a lot of history there, a lot of animosity and bitterness between them about events that occurred immediately following the abduction of their daughter and how they both handled it and have progressed since then. So that sets up the basic intro to this story. You've got themes are surrounding the loss of a child and abduction, guilt associated with a scenario like that, the grief that they would be trying to work through, and hope that they don't want to let go of, that they might one day find their daughter. How grief impacts people differently, and how tragedy can fracture people and relationships irreparably. So that's all packed into this small book. So if those things are interesting to you, that's good information for you to have. So it sounds interesting. You've got an interesting premise. You've got conflict in the characters. You've got kind of a suspicious conspiracy element and threat of danger. So those are all aspects of a good thriller, which this is what the genre for this novel is. It is a thriller. And part of the reason that I really didn't enjoy it is because from a thriller, I expect certain things. You know, you kind of want it to be that, oh, you're sitting on the edge of your seat or biting your nails and holding your breath, waiting for the pin to drop. Tension, suspense. You want all those aspects in a thriller, and I don't think this book delivered on those in any significant way, or even in a mild way that kept me engaged. So for it being a thriller, I don't think it hits well enough. I think the character development was poor. They came across as very one-dimensional, and attempts at creating depth fell flat. They weren't overly likable in the beginning, and towards the end there was no really redeeming qualities presented to counterbalance that. So you didn't feel connected. You weren't rooting for them. That's kind of, it just kind of didn't pull you in. And you were just kind of meandering through wanting a positive outcome ultimately, but not really, just kind of in the abject. Not because you really wanted Francine to find her daughter and escape whatever situation that she was in, since she had disappeared. I think I really struggled with believability and realism in this book. I think the actions that Francine undertakes don't come across as realistic or believable, and a lot of the events that occur just don't seem probable, in a way that this isn't a supernatural thriller. It's meant to be an event that could have, taken place, and it just was too outlandish, too unbelievable. She was too lucky. And because her character wasn't established in a significant or impactful way, you couldn't overlook that. I was already being critical of her, and so when things happened that didn't seem like they should have, I couldn't overlook that, because I didn't care enough about her to be that forgiving. So yeah, I struggled with the practicality in this, of if she could actually have achieved things the way that she did, would people have actually reacted in the way that they did, etc. So yeah, that was a big thing for me, a roadblock in this. The other thing was graphic descriptions of the situation in which her daughter is. So that was quite jarring, in the context of the rest of the book. That those situations are quite dark, quite heavy, and descriptive, with a realism of how someone who is experiencing that in real life would be experiencing them, their feelings, and just how bad and horrific scenarios like this can actually be. But because the rest of the book is kind of surface, that level of description is out of place, and it kind of shocks you in a way that breaks your immersion in the story. The counter side of that, sorry guys, I got interrupted there for a minute. The flip side of the graphic descriptions is, in other areas of the book, there is almost a tedious level of description with other aspects of the story. So not of like a graphic nature of like harm or abuse, but of just kind of extended scenes that serve no purpose. You're left wondering, why am I here? What is this telling me about the story? What substance is this providing? And again, it just takes you out of the story. You just get lost. So, filler is something I really don't enjoy in a book. And in a book this small, there really wasn't room for filler. And so much happens. Which it's weird to say that there's so much filler, but also so much happens. But that's why it's kind of disjointed. There's like too much description and also not enough where it counts. So that is also another conflicting thing in this book that I just didn't like. I think there was a lot of emphasis on an antagonistic role of her ex-husband and her ex-husband's new wife that was just useless. I think it was a device to make Francine seem like more of a hero in persevering towards rescuing her daughter. But I think that also fell flat. I think it was counterproductive because I honestly found Will to be a more relatable character in this book. So I think it kind of backfired for me. I understood objectively what the author was doing, but for me, it had the opposite result. So all of those things contributed to this novel being draggy. I wasn't invested in the characters. There was no connection there. I found the plot overall underwhelming. I don't think the big reveals were really unique or surprising. I think everything was pretty expected, you know. There was nothing new here. And I think it was just implausible. I think one of my dogs has joined me for this review, and now she's decided she wants to leave. So yeah, it was just implausible. The events and the way they occur don't seem like they would realistically fall that way. I think it was too grand, too conspiratorial, and too complex, unnecessarily complicated, and too much to jam into such a small book. Too much. They tried to accomplish too much with too much detail in the wrong place. And it just didn't work. It didn't deliver. This book did not deliver. It didn't deliver on how the book is set out in the back. It didn't deliver as a thriller. And it didn't deliver an enjoyable read, because sometimes books aren't what you expect them to be, but they're still really good. And that was not this case. This book wasn't what I expected it to be, and it wasn't good. At least not for me. The premise of this book might sound interesting to you, and you can go ahead and read it, and you might like it, I'm sure. My dog has come back. I'm sure there are people out there that have read this book and really enjoyed it, but I'm just not one of those people. So that's where we're sitting here with this one. I'm just taking a look here at my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. I don't think there is. I think that's it, guys. So I hope this told you whether or not you might want to read this book. I know I was pretty critical of it, but I hope that it wasn't too critical or it wasn't too abstract in my criticism. I really don't want to give away details because I don't want to spoil the book in case you do want to read it. But if you have read it, let me know what you thought. And if you haven't read it and you do, then also let me know what you thought. If I considered doing a spoiler version of this review in which I really went into the details of the story and why they bothered me, but I decided to scrap that idea in the end. But if that's something you'd be interested in the future, so kind of a spoiler-free version and then a spoiler version, let me know, because when I run into a book that I don't enjoy, it's really hard to review it without giving away the particular details that really affected why I didn't enjoy it. I just think this book didn't deliver, and I think there are other thrillers that tackle similar subject matter and do a much better job, and I would recommend Head and Shoulders Above this book. The first book, the other thriller that I've already reviewed, The Dead Won't Sleep by Anna Smith, completely different experience. I would definitely recommend this book. Now the subject matter isn't exactly the same, like the premise, but this is also a book that does graphic description well. So there are graphic descriptions in this book, but they don't seem out of place. They aren't excessive, and they suit the story and the context of the story. The tone and the setting and the writing all flow together and make sense. It's not jarring or out of place where it was in this one. So out of the 100 books so far, if you're looking for a thriller, definitely choose this one over this one. That's my recommendation. Before you do pick up the other book, though, I would recommend going back and just maybe hitting that review, giving it a look, because the subject matter is a little bit different and quite heavy. So just to give you a heads up about what that one's about before you really jump into it, you can take a look at that. So we've done this book. I've told you what I didn't like about it and what I would recommend instead. And now we're going to preview book 13. Book 13 is going to be Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This book is quite a bit more substantial than the last one, and definitely not anywhere close to the same subject matter or genre. So it'll be a nice break, and hopefully it's a much more enjoyable read than the last one was. If you're wondering about the fate in there, it's because the book fell over on me. That's a quite thick softcover, so it doesn't like to stand on its side, and it just wanted to crash backwards. So that's what we've got coming up next. That's what you can look forward to if you wanted to check it out in advance. If you've already read it, don't spoil it. And that's all I have for you today. So I'm going to say, there it goes again. Not quite as crashy that time, so I'll leave that one in. That's where we'll for today. See you in the next one. I don't know if you can see. But this candle has been burned all the way down in the course of me trying to do the review of this book. There's also another candle off to the side that has also suffered the same fate. So we'll come in with some fresh ones in the next video. Before I put the candle out, I did just want to say I have gotten quite a bit behind on my reading. I haven't started the next book yet, and it might take me a while to get through it because I've been a little busy just in life lately. So I might throw up a review of a book that I've already read that isn't one of the 100 in the meantime, to kind of support or just throw in between my Tuesday ASMR videos to have another book review in there. Anyways, this one got kind of rambly again. I apologize, but that's it for real this time. I hope you guys have a good night, a good day, a good weekend, a good week whenever you're watching this.